Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2. This week, we are going to be going over the memo reading, which we introduced as an idea in last week's video. We're going to check out the formatting of a memo and what the expectations are. We're then going to go over the Project 1 assignment sheet. And finally, we're going to have a question of the day. One note that I want to point out really early on here so that there's no confusion whatsoever is the late work policy in this class. There is no late work accepted except for the 2 major projects, the rhetorical analysis memo, which is due in a few weeks, and the instruction set, which is due closer to the end of the semester. All other work, the questions of the day, the rough drafts, and your resume, those things, no late work is accepted. You have to get them in by the due date or you get a 0. That's it. It's the policy in the class. There's no emails later asking for extensions. There's no at the end of the semester saying, well, I didn't get this in. Can I turn it in later? No. The only late work that's accepted are the 2 major projects, the rhetorical analysis memo and the instruction set. Okay. Let's get down to business. Share screen. All right, here we go. So, let us start with going over the memo reading. If you go to content, you'll find the memo reading here called Composing and Formatting Memos. That is our reading for this week. Ignore the part that is crossed off and read through the rest of the reading. So there are some important things here on the sidebar. The first is a topic sentence. Just like in an essay that you might have had to write in high school, you should have topic sentences to start every paragraph of your memo. The sentence that identifies the main point or overall idea of the paragraph. That is how your memo should begin. You should also have topic-specific headings if there are different sections of your memo. Now, this will be relevant in your project 1, though less relevant in your questions of the day. Now, remember, very importantly, important thing, your questions of the day from here on out, week 2 through the end of the semester, have to be formatted like a memo. I'll repeat this again at the end of the video, but they have to be formatted like a memo. So you have to do these things that we're talking about in your question of the day response. So here's what a memo looks like. It has to have this, does everyone see at the top here? It has to have this format, 2, and the 2 is going to be me, Isaac Piquel. The from is going to be you, your name. Date, the date in which you're writing the question of the day or the memo for the rhetorical analysis project, and the subject. So the subject for question of the day could be a shortened version of the question itself. The subject line should never be more than like 7 words, right? It can't be the whole question for long questions of the day. For short ones, maybe you can fit it, but it should be a shortened version of the question of the day. Okay, next thing about memos. If you'll notice in memos, these are short paragraphs. Each paragraph should be relatively short, not really, really long, like in a literary essay. And they should only deal with one point. So each paragraph should start with a topic sentence that discusses what is in the paragraph to come. You should discuss that topic, and then you should move on to the next topic. If in your answer to the question of the day, or more likely in your rhetorical analysis essay, you have multiple sections where you move on to the next point, like for instance, in the $1 trillion question, you could have had one section that was things I will buy for myself, and then another section started by a heading here. Do we see how it's in bold font? Your headings have to look different and be bolded, bold font. Another heading could say, for instance, things I will buy for the world, right? That could have been different sections in your question of the day answer. But again, your memos, whether it's for the question of the day or your rhetorical analysis essay, have to look like this. They have to look like this. They have to have short paragraphs. They have to have this header up here. They have to have section headers for different sections in bold font. And finally, they always need to have a next step section. So the end of every memo should say next steps and then what you expect of me afterward. For these, all you have to write is please read this memo and grade it. That's all it needs to be, but you have to be used to doing next steps because in the rhetorical analysis essay, it'll have to be more than that. Okay. Couple other things for memos is you'll notice that when they go onto a second page, you need to have a second page heading, which is just this information. So on the top of the second page or third page, and this is again only relevant in your essay that's coming up, you need to have who it's addressed to, the page number, and the date. So who it's addressed to, the page number, and the date. You should also have an attachments notation. It should say attachments after next steps if you attached anything like screenshots or something to the memo. All right, that's all we need to know about memos. Please do this reading so that you feel confident. Now let's go over the Project 1 assignment sheet. We're not going to read this whole thing because that would take forever. But the key is that you are going to choose a piece of technical communication to analyze. You can either analyze, just stick with one of the three that are tech samples. So you can find those: content, Project 1, form, guide, and booklet. So those are the three pieces of technical communication you are going to analyze. You're going to analyze them in the form of a memo, and you're going to analyze their rhetorical effectiveness, either the form, the guide, or the booklet. Those are the only three things you can choose to rhetorically analyze. Now, going back to the assignment sheet. So first, you're going to choose it. 2, you are going to evaluate your chosen document for usability. This will involve reading the document carefully, paying attention to the features that enable use. And 3, you're going to write a memo to me, set up like we talked about, that organizes your rhetorical analysis in both a logical and convincing way. So here are the analysis points. You have to hit all 5 of these as different sections in your memo. So each of these should be a header in bold font, addresses particular readers, helps readers solve problems, reflects an organization's goals and cultures, uses design to increase usability, and consists of both words and images or both. Those are your sections, followed by a next steps section where you say, please give me feedback on my rhetorical analysis and give me a grade. Okay. First, before you have these 5 sections, you'll have an introduction. The introduction, like in any essay and like in a memo, is going to be a brief overview of what's to come, followed by these 5 sections. So addresses particular readers, you're going to analyze in your document, again, one of those 3 that we showed you, how the document addresses a specific readership, a specific audience. What does it do specifically to address those particular readers? Does it use language that addresses those readers? Does it call them out specifically by name? Does it use design that addresses those particular readers? For instance, in one of them, it's a booklet for a science fair, and you'll notice that it addresses children by using bright colors, by using simple language, and by talking about science fairs. Next is helps readers solve problems. So the help readers solve problems is, what does your document help readers, the audience, do? So for instance, one of the documents is a COVID-19 checklist for doctors of who should get the vaccine, right? So this helps solve a reader's problem of who should get the vaccine for COVID-19. Next, reflects an organization's goals and culture. So for this, you need to do a little research and figure out who is responsible for the document that you are analyzing, and then discuss how the document reflects the organization's goals and culture. So for instance, the document that is the OSHA workplace requirements, that is meant to help people know the rules of workplace safety. And that's reflecting an organization's goals and culture, because OSHA's goals and culture is to create safe, reliable workplaces. Next, we have uses designed to increase readability. This one is pretty straightforward. You're going to analyze the design of the document. You're going to talk about how it is designed, how it's set up, how it's formatted, all of that, and talk about how that increases readability, how it makes it easier to read, to take in the information. So again, for like the science fair booklet, we have lots of bright, bold headers that help increase readability. Finally, consists of words or images or both. You have to discuss how it uses both words and images in its thing. If it doesn't use any images or uses very few images, talk about how that makes it more difficult to communicate. Okay. And finally, this is what I'm going to be evaluating on. So you can read those through and figure it out. The text choice is due this Sunday, so you should choose which of the 3 texts you're using. Your rough draft is due, this should say Sunday, not Thursday. That's my bad. The rough draft is due Sunday, June 23rd. So that's 2 weeks from this Sunday. And your final draft is due Sunday, the week after that. This is worth 25% of your grade. Okay. Let's go back. Again, send me an email if you have any questions. So the final thing for today's video is the question of the day. Remember, this has to be in memo format or you will lose points, and it's due this Sunday. The question of the day is, what is one thing you would change about the world and why? That's it. What's one thing you would change about the world and why? All right, please feel free to email me with any questions. Hopefully this video is very helpful, and I will see you guys in a week.